Hi, everybody. We are live. And I just want to thank everyone for coming to the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour today. I'm Lori DePietro stand-in, and my success coaches are here, Joanne and Lori LT. And this is such an important topic. I hate to even call it a topic because it encompasses so much. It's not just one thing. But what we're going to be talking about today is transformation. Because when we started out when we were younger, you may have had it, and we're all going to kind of tell our stories, a vision for your life, or maybe you didn't. But there was a certain amount of hope. There was, things that you were fairly confident weren't going to happen, right? Because when we're young, we're all thinking that way. It's never going to happen to me. And so life gets in the way, and the standard American diet gets in the way. And before you know it, you are overweight, you're depressed, you're struggling to get through your day, you're having health problems. And this is an epidemic. This isn't something that just a few of us are experiencing. The whole reason that I got into this profession was because, not just because of what was going on with me, but because when I looked around, I could see it with everyone. And so it, especially women. And so that's why I got involved. So we want to talk to you today about transformation, because it's not just about losing weight, because we've all been on the yo-yo dieting train, right? So you lose the weight and nothing really changes. So we want to talk about today what is different about transformation, what makes it so much better, what makes it more challenging. And so we're going to hopefully have a good discussion today. I would love for you guys to talk about your experiences as well, and chime in if there's things that resonate with you. So I want to put this out to LT and Joanne first, but what did you see for yourself in your future, or did you have a vision when you were younger? And maybe that started, we put up pictures of us in high school, but maybe this was something that happened a little before or after that. But what was it like when you envisioned what it would be like to be a grown-up?
Well, my idea of what I was going to be is I wanted to be something with physical activity. I wanted to be like a farmer. I wanted to go live with gorillas in the jungle. I wanted to do something like extremely adventurous. And, or I wanted to be something like a rock star or the first girl in the major leagues.
You wanted to be a fighter pilot?
I did want to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to do all these adrenaline junkie things.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought.
That's correct. And so did you have any vision for how any of those would play out? Like, did you think, okay, I'm going to go to school for one of these things, or not? Did you just kind of like, I know it's going to be one of these things, but I have no plan? Okay.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I had no plan.
Okay. All right. What about you, Lori?
Well, I started in high school working at a radio station, and that's where I met my husband. And I was always interested in communication. And what I wanted that to translate to is I wanted to be a TV anchor person. And I especially wanted to be an entertainment type reporter. So somebody like a Mary Hart or a Lisa Gibbons, that is definitely what I wanted. And I knew that I was going to have to go somewhere to lose this accent. So because, they have to work. You can't be Southern and be in the national scene, but you can be. We live 60 miles south of Atlanta is where I grew up. So the be all end all would have been something in the Atlanta area is what I had always envisioned. And I did go to college and major in public relations and thought I was going to pursue that until about halfway into college. And then it wasn't so much TV anymore. So, but it was always the dream.
Yeah. Wow. That's so awesome. So you guys had huge, like really lofty ideas.
Yeah.
So And hopefully, some of you women can relate to this. I didn't have that. There were things that before I really got to be a teenager, I was interested in, like dance. I can remember being really young and I would make up dances and I would make everyone come and watch my dances. And of course, I sucked, but this was like, and I was the oldest. And so we would put on plays, so there was always like some kind of production going on. And so, but I didn't really, I grew up in a pretty bad situation. And so what I realized is that I actually had no plan. I actually didn't expect to make it. Not that I had a plan for not making it, but it was because I was in day-to-day survival, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realize now that I really was on just survival mode, even after I needed to be, because I had gotten used to that. So I didn't really have any kind of vision. I did go to college, but I kind of was like, my parents wanted me to go for business. And then I switched to English and did some dance stuff with that. But I didn't get a chance to get any kind of clear vision. So for you guys, was there a point where you got derailed, or how did that coincide? How did that, whatever happened, whether it was a process or a moment in time, how did that manifest itself or coincide with your weight gain and health issues?
Well, I think for me, which I think for a lot of people, it was that one bad breakup. It was the one, I grew up in a very kind of sketchy situation too, with domestic violence and alcoholism and drug abuse. And so I think at a certain point, you meet that person who you're like, I could just get out of here now and I could, make a life that doesn't look like the one I'm living.
Right.
And so, that I think that's what happened. And I got so wrapped up in that. And then when that ended, it was like I had put everything I had wanted on hold and just was like, I just need to get out of here and do this other thing and make a good life. And it was nothing that I wanted. It was just a way out, I think. And then when that ended, I think that's what started my, issues with self-esteem, issues with, sort of destructive behaviors, and just the whole downward spiral from there.
How old were you?
Started dating him my senior year, and I was almost 21.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a long-term thing, and I really thought it was gonna, be the thing. And then when it wasn't, I think that really messed my head up.
And so you feel like that, how did that coincide with, or what did it look like for it to start manifesting itself through your health or through food?
So that I had put my college on hold because he went away to college and I was going to stay home and go to community college. Well, then when that ended, it kind of did launch me into, okay, now I got to get my life together. And so then I went and applied and went away to college. But then I think being in the college scene and giving up all that, going to be a little Miss Domestic person, I kind of just went with the party scene. And I think that's what derailed me is I just wasn't sleeping. I was drinking. I was eating a lot of junk. Yeah. And it just turned into the big, downward spiral.
Right. What about you, LT?
Well, mine started in college as well. The very first time I ever went to Weight Watchers was when I was 20 years old in my college town. And I walked in there thinking I was the biggest elephant that has ever walked this side of the earth. And that weight is now around my goal weight now. So this is how distorted we are, ladies, in our thinking. But I did lose 25 pounds there. And I was a big goody in college. But so how I gained my weight was eating on the run, on the fly, bad stuff, coming in, eating late at night, not having that activity like I did in high school, being with my dance lessons that I took and being on the drill team and just running and going and doing. It ended in college because I didn't keep up with any of those lessons and that type of anything anymore. It was just walking to and from class. And, you know, we had a vending machine in our dorm. It's real easy at midnight to go get a Snickers, to drink a Coke. I mean, that's what started me. And then that's what started my addiction with food and comforting. And then that's when I started losing my self-confidence with things. So that was, you're going into your junior year of college on that. And that's when it became looking back now, I call it a problem, but it was a small problem because my problems became much, much bigger after that.
Right.
The weight wasn't 20 anymore. It was 50, 60.
Right.
You know, it became that.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that you make too, that, you know, I was so worried about my weight in high school, and looking back, it's sad to me that I spent so much time worrying about it back then, because I wasn't overweight at all.
No.
And so that, you know, that's an important point to make, is just that our self-perception. I mean, we were talking about this, I think recently, with you guys. We were talking about how our perception now can be really off. And I was saying, up until a few years ago, I would find myself shopping in the plus section, even though I'm around a size 6. So like, it's a weird, you know, your image is so distorted because of our society, and that sets us up for problems from the very beginning. So I think for me, it's a little more complicated than that. I developed an eating disorder when I was a teenager. And so my dog barking in the background. McLevin never barks. So obviously this is a life and death situation. So we'll just let it play out there. But I, you know, because of some the things that were going on with home, you know, I was in a situation where our family was focused on weight. So there was a lot of pressure. And so I, you know, I developed an eating disorder, I think probably by the time I was 14 or 15. And, but the weird part is I was hospitalized for that for about a month in college. And I actually, though, after that was doing really well. Like in college, I was doing fine. So I was actually on the dean's list. And I had found, you know, I would say I was doing really well with my dance classes. And I, you know, so I was starting to really kind of find my niche. And then I got pregnant. So I was seeing my boyfriend from high school. We had been together for about 6 years, and I was on the pill. And so it's just one of those things that it just happened. And so I would say, you know, obviously I was derailed way back, you know, but that was the point where I felt like, you know, like looking back on it, I felt like I could not get it together after that, you know. So I think it's interesting because we all have really different stories about the things, like with you're saying, LT, like yours was just like bad habits, because when you're, you know, you were working out all the time, and plus when you're young, it's like your metabolism, you know what I mean? So then you can develop bad eating habits, and it just catches up with you later because of, you know, stress and not being active and whatever. And, you know, with Joanne, it was, you know, a relationship, like a you know, a fissure between like the before and after. So I think we all have these different stories. And ladies, if you have anything that you want to share about that, there's a lot of people watching right now, then go ahead and pipe in. So how do you feel like, because after that, whatever our story was, then our life becomes about always trying to get back on track. If we ever were on track, we're always trying to get back to some semblance of the body that we want, up to the life that we want. So how do you feel like your attempts to get back on track affected your journey and your mindset? And how long did all of that go on?
Well, I started, like LT, I started looking for weight loss solutions in college. And I back then, I don't remember what year that even was, but Metabolife was the big thing.
Yeah.
And you just take these pills. And, you know, I knew a bunch of girls who were doing, like, got somebody to get, you know, I don't even know if I was old enough to get them, but you had to get them through like a private kind of person, you know? So like I figured out how to get those. And then it just made me really, really sick. You know, I was still eating garbage, but I just kept thinking, you know, the solution is if I can just eat less. Why am I so hungry? Like I have a really big appetite and I really like food. And I always thought, well, if I could just eat less, what's wrong with me? Why can't I eat less? Why do I eat so much? And so those pills were like an appetite suppressant type of pill.
Were those ephedra? Do you
I think
know?
they were, because they
Yeah.
made you like super jittery. I couldn't sleep at night. It was just
Yeah.
messing up my whole sleep cycle. And I felt sick. Like it really suppressed my appetite to the point where I could only eat like really small portions of food. And, you know, when you're walking across campus and doing all these things all night long, there was not enough food to sustain me. So I got really sick and felt
Right.
like garbage.
Yeah. I took ephedra too later, probably when I was mid-20s. That was a big thing. And it was same thing. It was like at first, the first time I took it, I was like, this is like a miracle. Like you feel you have all this energy and you don't have any appetite and you're like, okay, I am on board with this. And then you find out really quickly what the side effects are. And then it also, you build up a tolerance to it and you know, so, but yeah, what about you, Lori?
Well, I'm no stranger to programs. I've said it here before, and it seems like that I am just throwing out a number, but I've been on 26, and I really have. And you know, I really think that that may be a conservative number, because I remembered something else I did the other day. That doesn't count these little things that you can get it yourself in the drugstore, where I can just buy, you know, you could go in and get some things yourself. I wasn't even counting that. I was counting the ones where I actually signed a clipboard and was with a program and paid a fee.
Right.
That's what I was counting. So Weight Watchers was in college, and then after college, it went straight to Nutrisystem. And so I've done all the pre-made meals, the weigh-ins, the check-ins. I've done the ones where you drink the shakes. I've done the ones where you go to a doctor's office and get the shots. Even had surgery. I've done so many different things. And you're right. That's in college is where it started, and it became front and center. And then I was in a constant chase of getting back to that. So I was never satisfied or where I was either going up or going down. I never stayed where I could enjoy life and say, this is it. And this is what I'm looking for. I was never at that state. Constant, front and center. Had a counselor tell me one time, this weight thing is really your albatross, isn't it? You know, the albatross that we carry, the burden that you carry. And I said, it really is. And I just want to be at the point where I don't think about it. I get up, it's not front and center. I want to be at that point. And I'm finally at it. I'm finally at that point now.
Right.
And I'm 50.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. When I asked that question yesterday for people to finish the sentence, I just want. Several people said, I just don't want to be thinking about this all the time.
Right. And you don't want to, I mean, the first thought in the morning, beat yourself all day, get mad, go to bed thinking about it, wanting to go to bed, wanting the day to be over because you're ready. That was my favorite part of the day, was when it was over. And now I look forward to the morning. I'm excited. I'm vibrant. I'm engaged. I'm living. I'm thriving, you know, and I just feel like that it was a constant chase, constant.
So from what you're telling me, for about 30 years.
30.
Yeah.
Yes, in some sort of capacity. And it was different things. It wasn't even just all of that. It would be overdoing it on exercise, or, you know, having the personal training and not liking it. And to the point, and everybody can be a little bit sore when they do exercise. I kind of embrace a little bit of that sore. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the kind of sore that you can't even get a plate out of your cupboard. You can't even sit on the toilet because it hurts just down. You dread washing your hair. I'm talking about that kind of sore.
Yeah.
And I'm just not doing that anymore, y'all. I am not living on a heating pad, popping Advil and putting what I called my marijuana cream on it. It was cannabis care, but everybody laughed at me at the gym because I'm like, I'm going to have to get my marijuana cream going on this. I mean, I just was constantly agitated about it.
So, okay, so getting to, how do you feel like it affected how you feel about yourself to be doing this for, 10, 20, 30
Yeah.
years, to be getting some success and then failing, and then
Yeah.
trying something else and then failing? So how does that affect your mindset?
Depression and isolation, beating yourself up, feeling bad about yourself, not having that little edge about you, not being vibrant, existing, getting by, looking forward for the week to be over. It just was, it was just existing is really what it was. And it takes a toll when you're a mother and you have children still at home. They can see that participation in that. And if I could go back, oh my gosh, if I were 25, 30 again, I would do things so much differently, because they get the brunt end of that. If you're not at your best, you're more snappy, you're just more agitated, irritable.
Pam says, I started with the grapefruit diet and plain old not eating in high school.
Mhm.
Yep. I did, I don't know if you guys did the military diet, the one that was like tuna fish and bread and
hot
eggs
dogs.
and hot dogs. Yeah.
Oh.
I
my
did the
God.
hot dog one. I didn't, it wasn't tuna fish.
I always felt that being thin would make me happy and part of the crowd.
Yeah.
Susie says, my first was Weight Watchers when I was in 6th grade. Sounds crazy now that it started before I was in high school.
Yeah.
So what about you, Joanne? How do you feel like that affected your mindset over time?
I think I felt like I couldn't do it. I just wasn't going to be one of those people that could ever do it. Like I either just didn't, I don't know what I thought it was, but I thought, well, that's not me. I can't lose weight. I can't. And when I say lose weight, I was probably 135 pounds, thinking
right.
I needed to lose weight, but at that point I was unhealthy as well. So it wasn't just weight. It was like puffiness and bloatedness and all that yuck feeling. And I just thought, well, it's just not going to be me. And so why try?
Yeah.
Just why not just enjoy life and not try? And if it comes off, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. I think for me, it was just more of a frustration of, I'm the type of person who thinks I know that there's an answer if you're looking hard enough. And so I felt like, why can't I figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, it was more, again, a lot of it was me just kind of, what happens, when you experience trauma is sometimes, and I'm sure many of you guys can relate to this, you get into survival mode and you stay there even though you don't have to, because that's just what you're used to doing. And so I think I was just sort of grasping at things. I'd be like, well, now I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try that. And that worked a little bit. So I'm going to go back to that again, but this time I'm going to do it this way. So it's like, I was always trying to figure it out. And it was so frustrating to be gaining weight over the years, because you lose the weight and you gain it back, and then you gain a little bit more. And so it's
Right.
like over the years, you're gaining, it's a net gain. And so, and then you try things and you think, well, why couldn't I stick to that? That's, like I did, ketosis, it's like, well, why, so you do things and you think like, well, I'm sure other people are sticking to this.
Right.
Why can't I stick to this? So it was a constant, like you said, it was, beating yourself up. I was constantly like, why can't I do this? But also just a really profound, like, frustration of, what is
Yes.
the answer? There's got to be an answer here.
And a sadness to it.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is I had this is what makes me very sad about this. I had so many wonderful things happening in my life, and I had these healthy, beautiful children, and I had this home that I love, and I had this marriage that I love, and I let this supersede all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it breaks my heart that I did it, but I did. And I don't know if I could go back and just shake that girl and say, get a hold of it, get control,
Mhm.
get help, find the answer that's going to be the best. You are chasing your tail around that and getting no results. And it just takes an edge off of life. You can't enjoy. It's like even when you're happy, and there were happy moments. It's not like I was just sad the whole time, but your happiness is not the real happy. It's just a little subdued. It was always just a little colored, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm. Yeah.
I think you can see that in the pictures that we posted.
Yeah.
Because we're all
Yeah.
smiling in those middle pictures. And so it's not that there weren't happy times, but it's always this cloud
Always.
for your head that, and it's not just the weight, it's the fact that you don't feel good. That's the thing, I think,
Mhm.
is if you were heavy and you felt amazing, then you would be like, oh, this sucks that I'm heavy, but the problem is that you don't feel good.
Right.
Right.
And I think that was the thing as I got older. So for me, like after I hit 30, that was really when it became like a much
Right.
bigger issue for me.
Yeah. Mine too.
I
After
went,
30.
yeah, I went from yo-yoing around and kind of ending up sort of around the same weight to dramatic change.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And pregnancy for me helped. I mean, that just
Oh, yeah.
started the charge, and then I just kept on going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. I talk to so many women who their partners, their husbands or whatever, don't really understand their weight issues. And it's like, well, of course you wouldn't. You're not a woman. So your metabolism does change as you get older, and your metabolism does change after you have a baby. So we have other obstacles to get over besides just the stuff that we've talked about if you've had children. So what was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom was last summer when I called you because I had gotten to a point where I had injured myself because of inflammation, and I couldn't walk. I had a boot on my foot, up half my leg for half a year. It was 6 full months because it just wouldn't heal. And even before that, I had such bad fatigue to the point where it was not a normal amount of fatigue. And I went from always feeling like crap to feeling this new level of fatigue and sick, and I just could not even function at a point. And I thought, it was like such a huge red flag to me. Like something is failing in your health. Like you need to do something, you need to go to the doctor. And that's when I did. I started going to the doctor saying, what do I have? Like I must have some horrible disease because I feel like I could literally, and I said this to my husband probably a lot of times, I feel like I could just lay down right now and not wake up. That's how sick I felt.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I started having panic attacks and I started crying, and that's not me. Like I'm so no nonsense about everything. And when I started having these panic attacks not just this past summer, but the summer of 2019, I thought, I'm losing my mind. What is going on with me? Why am I so emotional and out of control? I feel sick. And I remember putting out a post on Facebook that said, has anybody ever had West Nile virus? Because I was having such headaches, and I just felt like my head was about to explode with pressure. I really thought I had some horrible disease, but then I thought it was menopause. I thought it was this, that, or the other thing. And that's how I found you. Is I was researching stuff online, like, what is wrong with me? I wanted to go the natural route to figuring out what was wrong. And that's when your ad popped up and I was like, wait, she's describing everything that's wrong with me right now. So maybe I'm not dying. Maybe, you know, I was probably pretty close, but maybe there's a way to turn this around. And, you know, I had looked at plant-based stuff before and I had tried it before. I actually tried the going raw vegan. And so I basically was just eating vegetables all day long. I had no idea you had to have grains and proteins and fats and all of that, but you know, that only lasted a couple months. So when you were also the plant-based aspect to it, I thought maybe this, you know, maybe this is what will help me. And I was at my rock bottom. So that's when I reached out, like, this is my last chance. Otherwise I'm going to the hospital.
I want to mention, I just wanted to touch on what you said about the fatigue, because I was actually talking to someone about that a couple days ago, and we were talking about it seeming like it's a painful fatigue. It's not just that you're tired. It's almost like there's this undercurrent of fingernails down a blackboard, like you can't function.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a few good hours every day, and those I knew what they were, and I would try to get as much done during those times as I could. And like you said, you're trying to do that while you're raising family, you know, working, whatever else you have going on in your life. And so it becomes like it's the overriding factor in everything that you do. So, but also, what was your relationship with food at that time?
Well, because I was so sick and so tired, like the fatigue was a level that I never even knew existed of fatigue. Like you said, the painful, like lifting one leg up to put it in front of the other to walk was almost like, you know, I had 50-pound weights on each leg that's how fatigued I was. So food was like, okay, let's go to the drive-through. Let's order a pizza, like every day, twice a day. It was just ridiculous. And I didn't feel good about it. I don't like doing that. I didn't feel physically good. I didn't feel good about giving it to my kids every single day. But I literally couldn't. I literally couldn't make myself do anything different at that point. Like you said, I had a few good hours a day, and that wasn't dinner time. By dinner time, I was done.
Right. What about you, Lori?
I had several different degrees of rock bottoms when I look back. My first really major disappointment, rock bottom, was when I always associated to how old my children were at the time. It's kind of like, oh, when they were in that grade, and when they were in that, you know, it's like different sizes. You never know what you're going to get when you look through the album. Oh, I was this, yeah. She was in kindergarten, my youngest, and I lost a little over 50 pounds. And I did it having a calorie deprivation, and I had hired a personal trainer that came to my home. And I really did well with her. It wasn't like this gym that I went to. That was my latest one where they did all the weights. We were just kind of doing it on the treadmill and through little weights and resistant bands and all that. But she kept up with me. But when I gained, and then I thought I could handle it, you know, after I'd lost the weight, and got a little bit too full of myself on that. And that's why you'll hear me say, when you strut, you're going to stumble. So you're not going to hear me strut anymore, because I learned my lesson on that. I will be humble and kind, but I'm not going to strut, because that was a long fall down. When I first got with her, I really did want to go cry in a corner when I figured out that I could not exercise my way out of a bad diet. I really thought I could.
Yeah.
And then I gained all that 50 back plus more. And that was a really rock bottom. And then I started just floundering, doing all kinds of different things, and then just stayed in this little big overweight area for a long time, where I would just maybe lose 10 or 20, but I still wasn't getting off the main thing. And then about 3 years ago, I started going to a place where I was with a trainer in a gym, and I lost around 40 then. Still had weight to lose. And then here comes COVID. The gym closed, and I had re-injured my foot while we were at Disney World. And we were the last group at Disney World before they shut it down. We were there on spring break. We were literally there one week. The next week it was dark. So I'd re-injured my foot there. So I was in a boot. And when the gym is closed and when everything around you is closed, and you've got a son coming home from college that doesn't want to be at home, and you've got a daughter who is very active in everything, and now she's at home and everything's shut down with her dance and all that, it was very stressful here in the house. And I know that nobody understands that. Only everybody that had to live through that, because we all had to make adjustments. And I'm talking about the early days. Let's think back to March, middle of March, April. And I gained 20 pounds in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was eating a bunch of crap and watching a bunch of Netflix and TV and all that. And, because everything was closed and we were ordering out, and that's when the takeout was picking it up. And that was another rock bottom moment. And that's when I found you, because I said, I'm not doing another program. I had done all that. I'm not doing it. I know that it needs to be done with food, regular old food that is sustainable and is the most healthy and nutritious that I need to do, because I'm not going to go to this place and be on a program type anymore, filling out a little clipboard and showing up every week. I'm not doing it.
Do you think your mindset had changed at that point a little bit away from weight loss to health?
Yes.
Okay.
It had shifted at that point, because I thought I'd been too yo-yo too many times. And I had this 50th birthday looming, because my birthday was in May during COVID. And I knew that my heart doctor had told me that my blood pressure was really high and my cholesterol was high. And I knew that he wanted me to be on medication. And that was one of the reasons why I went to that trainer, to kind of get those areas back under control. And I knew that I was going to lose all of that again, all of that hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, all of that I had done was gone in a flash. Yeah. And I said, I've got to do something that's the more natural, healthy way that is sustainable, that I can be like this when I'm 60 and when I'm 70. I need something like this. And that's why it spoke to me doing it this way.
Right. Well, and as you guys know, because I've put it out there so often, I had a lot of, hard moments like all of us do. I've had 3 miscarriages. I've been divorced. There's a lot of things that you go through in life. And the overriding thing, I think, is that you're trying to cope with life's issues. And I don't know that anybody really teaches you how to do that. You're just supposed to just keep pushing forward. And so we develop coping mechanisms. And for most of us, one of the main things we're doing is it's food. And it's easy to get into that trap because all of the fast food, the processed food, all of that stuff has the bliss point, which I've talked about, which has that exact level of salt, sugar, and fat that makes it addictive. They do studies to find out how addictive they can make your food. They pick the maximum amount, they actually do studies with people, which is completely legal. And that's what we're consuming. And so on top of just dealing with life and maybe not having great skills because of, the way we were raised or whatever, personality types, depression, all of this stuff, we end up turning to food, and that food is addictive. And so, so you have these traumas and these things that you're going through, and that is just the constant is the food. And so then, for me, I got dramatically more sick and overweight when I was in my 30s. And then, I was in a bad marriage. We had been in counseling already like 4 times. And then my grandma died of Alzheimer's. And so we did hospice at home for her. And that is just, it's such a devastating disease. If you haven't seen it up front, I hope you never do. if you haven't seen it up close, because it, to lose someone, people don't realize with Alzheimer's that they don't just lose their minds and their memories of who they are and who you are. They lose their ability to do basic things, like my grandma forgot how to chew.
Mhm.
So that was like the last thing. And there's nothing you can do about that. You could put someone on an IV, but we knew she wouldn't want to live that way. So in the end, basically they starved to death. And it's just an awful, and all you can do is keep them comfortable and medicated as much as you can while you do that. So we did that at home. My grandma was from a really like early on, before any of this happened, she was always like, I'm never going into a nursing home. And she was deathly afraid of it. And so we would never have done that to her. And so that was a really traumatic experience. And so that was, I think for me at that point, I was, 60 pounds overweight, doing a lot of just what you're talking about, Joanne, is just fast food, just whatever, just, I don't even care anymore type of thing.
Right.
And I honestly, at that time too, like, I can't even tell you what was going on with my kids that much, because we were all together and all that stuff, but like my head was not in the game. So between what was going on with, my grandma, with my marriage, with my own struggling with depression and having all of these issues, and then being sick on top of that, because then I got to the point where like, okay, now my thumb's frozen in place. What the hell is that? Where did that come from? It's like every symptom, you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
What, just like every time something happened, I would be like, are you kidding me? This is something new. What is this?
Yep.
I was having night sweats. I was getting hives from sun exposure. That had never happened to me. Mm-hmm. So my body was starting to go haywire on top of everything else. And I really felt out of control. I think also the thing is that I did not feel feminine at all. And I had no, I didn't really have any libido whatsoever. Like because with women, it's really interesting with men, because it doesn't really matter how they're feeling or what weight they are. They're ready to have sex if you are. Like, we'll just do it. Whereas with women, it's so tied to how we're feeling physically and emotionally about ourselves and our bodies. And so all during that time too, it's like, it's not something I wanted to do. Like, and I was not in a good marriage, so he didn't really want to do it either. It had nothing to do with that. But it makes you feel, it's something you notice, that I'm not feeling feminine. I'm not feeling attractive. I don't have any mojo. I don't have any energy. It's like a light has gone out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the difference. When no matter how you grew up, there's a light that you have when you're young. There's a hopefulness that starts to dim as we get older because of things that happen to us. Do you guys kind of see it that way?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened. And I allowed it to happen, is the thing. Knew it was happening, but was so caught up in the addiction and with the food and chasing something, and this one's going to be the one, and this one's going to be the one, that I really didn't do the mindset work that I needed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. I was doing a lot of overeating and a lot of starving myself. It was one of the two.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you guys have already kind of touched on this. I was going to ask what made you decide to get out of the matrix. And what I call the matrix is the yo-yo dieting cycle and the standard American diet, because all of the diets that are out there are based on the standard American diet, which is unhealthy. So that's why. So if you have something like Weight Watchers, which is basically, not that they're like, they try to get you to eat healthier by things being less points. But let's face it, we all know how we do Weight Watchers. We figure out how many points we have in a day, and we try to shove the bad foods in there so that we can eat the stuff we want. So, and it's the same thing with something like the keto diet. Most of the keto diets are promoting a bunch of meat and dairy, and so you have everything that we do is sort of based on this model that does not work. And so that's the matrix, because you get sicker and heavier over time. And it's because it's also not sustainable. So then you lose the weight, you gain it back, and then you gain more. And then you have medical problems. So now we're not only stuck in the diet industry cycle, but we're stuck in the medical industry cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing. And we don't even know about the bliss point. I didn't know about the bliss point a few years ago. And to this day, every time I talk to someone about it, and there's a book about it. Like this is not a secret, but almost I've never met anyone in my line of work who knows about it.
I had never heard of it before you told me.
Either.
There's a book. The book is written by a prize-winning journalist. His name is Michael Moss. So you can get it on Amazon or at the library. It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat, and it talks about this. And it's still going on. This is not something that was like, oh, they used to do this. Like they still do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the matrix. And you kind of both already talked about, how you were feeling like, I've got to get out of this. But did you at the beginning, you end up contacting somebody like me, or you decide like, I'm going to just do this a totally different way. Did you feel confident that you could do it, or were you scared? Like, what were your feelings and thoughts at the time?
I didn't think I could do it. I mean, I knew I wanted to, but I didn't think I could because I had never followed through with anything before. I had been on Weight Watchers too, and it lasted 3 months. And I didn't, I had tried to do that raw vegan thing, and I thought, well, it didn't work before, but I didn't realize how different this would be with actually making me feel good. Like I had no idea I could feel this good. I just didn't know. So I think all those other things I was doing, they never made me feel good. They would maybe drop the weight 20 pounds maybe, and I would start to feel a little like I looked better, but I never felt good. Like I always had a stomach ache. My whole life I've had a stomach ache, I think since I was born. And so now I don't have that anymore. And that's I never thought that was a thing. So when I joined, I thought, this isn't going to last. I'm not going to be able to do this. But
what made you do it anyway?
Well, I was scared. I'll tell you, I was really scared for my health. I was really scared. And you kept saying like, you have to just trust the process. And I thought, well, I did this for a week. I can do it for another week. And then I started very early on, I started feeling good. And when you start to feel like you're getting out of that fatigue and you're getting out of, like when my joint pain went away, oh my gosh, like I had such severe joint pain. I really thought I had some weird disease. But when that joint pain started to go away and I started to feel physically better, I was like, oh, well, maybe she's onto something. Maybe this will work for me. I don't know, that I feel really good. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And then as you feel better, like you were explaining in that video about how, your gut biome affects your mind, then I was more open to learning about the mindset work. Because I never knew that was a component. Like nobody knows that's a component to it. And that was actually the cause of it. So, but when you don't feel good, you can't even process things like that. You can't think about it.
Right. You just want to feel better. And it's too overwhelming to think about, oh, I have to go through all this mindset work in order to feel better. Like, it's like, you can't think of it that way.
You can't think of it.
Yeah. So Lori, what were you, because I remember the first time when you and I talked on the phone, you were crying. Like, so I know you were emotional, but did you feel like I can do this, or were you just feeling like, what were your thoughts?
I thought this is going to be a huge challenge because I'm about to have to flip everything that I normally do. And I'm willing to do it because I was at a desperation point at this, because I had gained this weight, half of my weight back that I had toiled and troubled for. Yeah. And I knew that I needed to do something radically different. That I knew. I was a little scared about it because I thought, this is going to be hard. But
did you think, can I ask you, what did you think was going to be the hardest?
Because I was not a big kitchen-y cook type person. I made a lot of casseroles and it was just a lot of simple things. And here in Alabama, I'm very typical in that we put cheese and Ritz crackers and butter and all this kind of stuff, and then we'll throw a can of green beans with it. And I had thought, oh my gosh, I've never shopped for this much produce in my life when I first started, and there were some ingredients that I had never heard of. And I remember you thinking that, telling me, you haven't heard of that? I was like, I've never heard of that. I don't even know what brown rice flour and turbinado sugar. Where is that? Where do you get it in the store? Yeah. I had never eaten tofu. And I just knew that it was going to be radical. But at this point, you have to understand my history and how many things I had done and how desperate I was. And this is what surprised me. This is what surprised me. I felt better within a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And I did not anticipate that at all. I was willing to do it. I was willing to do whatever you told me, because you said, trust the process. And I said, I'm going to believe and trust this process. I just didn't know it would happen that quickly. I didn't lose my weight that quickly. I still, of course, had weight to lose a couple of weeks in, but I felt lighter up here. I had more energy. I had more endurance, and those dadgum night sweats stopped. And I had them where I had a stream of sweat that would run down my leg in streams. Yeah. It dripped. Yeah. And so that ended. And that's when I said, I don't care. And I meant it. I don't care if I lose another pound. These night sweats are gone, and I feel better, and I feel like getting up and doing stuff. But yet I kept on with it. And guess what? I got to have both. I got to have all of that, all the good feelings, and the weight has dropped and continues to drop. And I've said it many times that it's an ease to it. I did not work hard for this. I let my nutrition do the work. You presented options to me about different flavors and foods and how to put things together to make it a quick, easy meal. It's still flavorful. We're just substituting things. We're veganizing. I've never felt deprived. I've never felt hungry. Mm-hmm. I feel a sense of satisfaction when I eat, and I know what that feels like, a satisfied. I don't have that stuffed, want to go put on sweatpants, want to go lay on the couch. I don't have that feeling anymore.
I always talk about that, like that feeling like you got to sit down and unbutton your pants, which,
right.
We're just used to in the United States, like you're not full unless you're stuffed.
And then on holidays like a Christmas and Thanksgiving, you're just stuffed. It's beyond stuffed. Mm-hmm. Because, excess of everything.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's a good point that, and for me, when I started it, it was the same thing that I've kind of said to you guys. Like, I just had this determination, like, I think this is it. I think I finally figured this out. Like, a lot of people are saying this is it. So if they can make it work for them, I can make this work for me. I didn't know what I was doing yet. So I had to, there was no program. So this was like 15 years ago. So I was just figuring it out as I went, and then got the education and everything to put the program together. But it was more just like this tunnel vision of, really just, I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to it. And it was just, as I started to feel better, I kept focusing on my health and not my weight. Right. And because the first year I didn't know what I was doing, and I started to feel better, but the weight wasn't really coming off. And so, but I kept saying, like, this isn't about getting skinny. This is about getting healthy. And when I finally figured out what I was doing, like you said, then I had both. I felt really good and the weight came off.
Right.
And I didn't feel all the things that make us give up on diets, which are feeling deprived, feeling like we can't go out to eat, feeling like you can't have a holiday. When people tell me that they're doing keto at the holiday, well, I'm having a coconut tortilla with I'm like, what? Like, you can eat like a normal person with the way that we do this. And that's the thing, that it's sustainable. That's the thing. Yeah. Is that it doesn't, even whether you have kids or you have, I've had people who travel a lot for work who are still able to do this. So that's the thing, is that it's the sustainability plus the fact that it works and you feel good.
Yeah. Right. And it's everyday things that you find in a normal grocery store. You're not having to go to these specialty high-end
right.
Whole Foods all the time.
I think people really think normal. That. Yeah. Right. I'd shop at I have like, so I call it the farm market because that's what they call it, which is like near my house, but it's not like a farm market. It's basically like a corner store. And they have produce there in addition to other things, but like they don't carry, Tylenol and stuff like that. It's all just food. And that's where I do all my shopping. Like I very rarely go anyplace else, like because I don't really need anything special.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is that it's just so easy. It's so easy to do. So, but how has the actual, so mentally, how has this process played out for you differently than either what's happened with you in the past or what you were expecting? Because what we're doing here isn't just, let's figure out how we can get this weight off. It's changing, it's changing your life.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
how has it played out differently than what you expected? Or if did you have any expectations?
Well, I think it's played out differently because I never knew you could feel good. I never knew I could feel this good. And when you feel physically this good, you start to open up, like you start to think about what you used to think about when you were young. Like, oh, I wonder if I could still do that career thing, because for so many years, especially when the kids were little and I felt so like garbage, I thought, okay, anything I ever wanted to do, it's not going to happen because I can't. One of the things I wanted to do was to be a zookeeper. That was one of my dreams. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to work at the zoo. I did end up working at the zoo, but in the education department, teaching kids and not with the animals. So, but one of the things, there are physical requirements of the job. Like you had to be able to lift a certain amount of pounds of the feed and the hay and all that stuff, and you had to work outside in hot temperatures and all season, all year. And I live in the Midwest, so you've got hot, you've got cold. I couldn't be out in hot weather. I was feeling so disgusting. I couldn't do that. And so I didn't think about those things. Well, now my kids are in high school. And they're twins, so they're going to both leave at the same time to go away to school. And now my mind is opened back up to, ooh, I wonder what the next chapter looks like. Whereas a year ago, I was like, I know what the next chapter looks like. It's going to be on this couch. And I don't feel like that anymore. I'm excited about what the future holds. And I've learned so much about, myself and what kind of things control your thoughts. And, you've taught us about self-sabotage, which I didn't know was a thing, but I was a real pro at it. So learning about all those things and not having all those chemicals in my body to cloud my thoughts has really opened up my mind to being able to even imagine those things possible again. And it's very exciting.
You were able to get off some medication as well.
Yeah, I had been on a beta blocker for 12 years and I just went off it this spring. And I knew that it was making me a little bit lethargic. And he told me ahead of time, like, look, this is going to make you feel a little groggy. Wow. I can't even tell you how much better I feel now, even getting off that in the last couple months. It's unbelievable. And I did it for 12 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel like, because I know this has been a process that you've gone through when you started this, your family was like, whatever, but we're not on board.
Mm-hmm.
So how has this changed, not just how they eat, but like, what is the difference now between you and your relationships, whether it's with your family or with other people? What has changed about you?
I'm so much more calm now. And I realize in doing the mindset work, I realized why I was reacting the way I was. My hormones were out of control. Just the way I viewed things, I thought everything was everybody else's fault. And I was very snappy and I was very angry. And I don't feel that way anymore because I'm not in pain. Like, I think a lot of that comes from being in pain and being tired. And when you're tired to the level I was tired, I don't have time for anything. Like, I don't have time. Don't come at me. Just don't.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I can process thoughts again. Like, it sounds so simple, but when you don't have that for so many years, it's very eye-opening.
So what about you? Because I know the other main work that you have done has been on boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Go set some boundaries today. Like, seriously, with the boundaries thing is, it benefits everyone. And for so long, when you feel so bad about yourself and you feel so tired, you let so many things slide. You let so many people just walk on you, and you're like, okay, you're too tired to argue about it. You're just too, you either snap and lose your mind, or you're
Right,
just too tired to care.
right.
And now that I've set boundaries and have seen the progress that even my kids have made with me setting boundaries, I was just so used to, okay, well, I guess I'm a stay-at-home mom. There'll never be anything else for me. I'm just going to do your laundry and I'm just going to clean the table every time you leave. No, like, they need to learn skills, and I need to stop doing that for everybody. And I was scared to do that, because when you feel bad about yourself,
Right.
it's hard to have a voice. And now that I've felt better, I feel more confident. I've tried out small boundaries and they worked. And when you set those small boundaries and you start to get a sense of yourself back instead of what everybody else is demanding of you,
Yep.
it's life changing. I mean, it's profound.
Yeah, we talked about boundaries last week, ladies. So if you did not catch last week's episode, then please go back and look at that, because
Mm-hmm.
it is a life-changing thing. But it's a big part of what we do here in the program is to I help you learn how to set boundaries, because that was key
Mm-hmm.
for me in this process. Because the thing is, we're not just changing what you're eating,
Mm-hmm.
because that doesn't get you out of the cycle where you're depending on food as a coping mechanism. This is about changing the way you structure your life,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just about how you structure the way you deal with things,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can be more successful in every area of your life, so that you're not depending on food. So that's not something like, I'm just going to grab onto anything that's going to make me feel better right now, and food is the easiest thing.
Mm-hmm. And setting boundaries with yourself. I didn't realize that was a thing either. And when I did start really looking at myself and doing the mindset work, and I thought, yeah, wow, I really need to set some boundaries with myself, because I let a lot of things fly that I shouldn't let fly with me. And when I started, like, just setting those boundaries with myself,
Stop
that,
arguing with yourself.
yeah, it's huge.
It is. It's because it's so exhausting when we spend so much time arguing with ourselves. When you
Mm-hmm.
set boundaries with yourself, oh my God, it's just
Mm-hmm.
so much easier than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Um, so, Lori, what about you? How do you feel like this has changed your outlook, or changed things for you mentally, for your mindset?
The biggest thing is that food no longer controls me and it no longer comforts me. I don't look as that as my go-to, my fallback. I truly, truly understand that food is fuel, and it fuels me to have my best life. And that's something that we hear, food is fuel. You've heard that many times before. I believe it all the way down to my toes now. I believe
Mm-hmm.
it. It's in my gut. I have more control and I'm more in balance. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're more in balance, you just are more patient with people. I'm more patient with myself. I am happier. I find myself smiling, laughing, dancing, singing to the radio more than I have ever done before. And I think it's just because my cup is filling over. I mean, it's spilling over,
Yeah.
because I have filled my cup for myself so much that it just exudes out of me. And people notice that are around you the most. You have a different vibe that you are putting out in the world. I am not sedentary, hardly at all. I'm always on the go, doing something, thinking of something that I want to do. Even if I'm in the home, I'm doing something around here. I can't even tell you the last time I played Candy Crush. I mean, I was hitting those levels right and left before. I was just on it all the time. I don't even know because I just did a lot of mindless sedentary type things that took me out of the game. And I really feel like I am back in the game.
Right. Well, I think for me, like it was easier to isolate because I didn't like the way I
Sure.
looked.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the way I felt.
Sure, I did it.
So
Yeah.
it's easier to be inside in climate control. Like one of the huge differences for me is getting out and enjoying nature again.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that has been like when I was little, we used to ride bikes and we'd get our big wheels out and ride down the hill in my grandma's yard and stuff. You just love being out there. We made mud pies. Like I said, we're putting on productions and all kinds of stuff. And then you get to a point where it's like it's so uncomfortable to be outside.
Yes.
And I didn't realize how much I was just relegating myself to climate control.
Yeah.
Until I was able to feel well enough to be out and about and feel good. And that like now I can be out in really hot weather and I'm okay. And I can be out in really cold weather and I'm okay. And I enjoy being outside instead of it being like, oh my God, we're going to be out there for how long? Like it just, so that just getting my summers back for me has just been amazing.
Because when we were kids, all the age that we are right here, we played outside every day until it was time to come in for dinner. I mean, we were always riding bikes or climbing trees or doing something with friends. And, that's the way we grew up. We could ride our bike to the store, back then. They can't do that now. But the other thing that's really made a difference that I've noticed is that I hid myself in a lot of big baggy clothes before. Even though I was big, I wore even bigger clothes. So I looked boxy. I remember when I would go to the gym, I would wear these leggings, but I always had big boxy shorts over my leggings, something black, wore black all the time. Then I had some sort of a big shirt because I didn't want anything binding.
In your belly or.
Not anymore. Buddy, I'm wearing these leggings and I'm wearing fitted shirts. And I don't want to wear anything boxy because I'm wearing stuff that shows what I really look like.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a curvy person. I am not a stick size 2. I mean, I am a curvy person, but I feel good about myself. I'm projecting myself with confidence and I just feel better all the way around. I'm sleeping better. My menopausal symptoms are completely gone in that area. My rash is gone. Remember I told y'all about my rash? I had 10 years. That's gone. There's just so many things that I didn't even dream would happen has happened in a very short amount of time on this. Very short amount of time.
That's the thing people don't realize is they think that when I talk about a life-changing process, I think people think that this is going to be like years in the making.
No.
And it really, it starts to happen so fast. And all it takes, like you're saying, Joanne, is just a commitment from week to week. Like, wow, I'm feeling better this week. Let's do it again next week. Oh, wow, I'm feeling even better. Let's go for week 3. Like it's really, it's about, but you have to commit to the change of it. You have to just be open to change. And that's the thing I think that's so hard is that I talk to women all the time who they are struggling like the ways that we were talking about, like they're back in that thing where they don't feel well and they don't like the way they look and they're not sleeping well and their menopause is out of control and they have no libido and they're snappy with everybody, but they are still afraid to change. And so that's the thing is like, it's, you have to be open to that. You have to be open to doing things differently. I think it's because, I don't know if you guys feel differently, but I think it's because when you have these coping mechanisms, you feel so bad all the time. You can't imagine giving those coping mechanisms up.
Right.
You can't imagine what it feels like to feel better.
No, you can't imagine what it feels like to feel good. Like I really think I never knew in my entire life, even as a kid, even when I had energy and, had a future in my mind, I still didn't feel good. Yeah. And I think feeling good is such a huge thing for me that, it just opens up so many doors when you feel good.
Right.
Oh, it opens everything. There's no restrictions in life. We are not hindered by anything now.
No.
All three of us can do anything that we want to do physically. I mean, there's no limitations. And there was limitations before where I didn't sign up for this or didn't do that, or I watched the kids go do it because I wasn't joining them, you know, and I can participate in everything. And when you start thinking about, like, even being on an airplane, about, I hope I don't have to get the extender on this plane, but I'll take it to the nth degree to hold it and buckle it. But, you know, I'd really feel better with an extender. When I'm going to get on the plane now, when we ever get to get on one again, I know I'm going to be over there going, and, you know, doing it up, cinching it up. I don't need an extender.
Yeah.
And I had a hold on that Diet Coke, y'all. I thought, now that I didn't think I would give up. I have not had a Diet Coke now in over 6 months. And I haven't been to a drive-through in 6 months. And I was a regular. I mean, they were waving to me coming up. I mean, I'm not going to do this anymore. You know,
they knew me a Dairy Queen. They knew my car.
Yeah.
Which is, I had an Astro van because I had a lot of kids. So, yeah, they'd see me. They'd be like, "Do you want the usual?" I'd be like, "Yes."
Right.
So that brings us, I know we're running over, but this is just such a great conversation. So how is I know that you both feel like your perspective on food has changed. And I know you both have said a little bit about that. Is there anything else that you want to say about how you feel, what your relationship is with food now, as opposed to what it was like before?
Well, like LT said, I'm not addicted to the food anymore. I'm not addicted to those chemicals. And it's such a trap that, you know, the industry has made. I never wanted to eat that way, but once you start and once it becomes convenient, you know, it's convenient at first, but then the chemicals start in on you, and then it's an addiction. And, you know, I knew
so bad you need it. You feel so bad that, like, you don't feel like you're capable of doing anything else because that's so easy. Like, I'll just go through the drive-through because I don't feel well enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're just making it worse. You're making yourself feel worse by putting more chemicals in, and you can't get off of that hamster wheel of feeling awful, but then needing a quick solution. But then the chemicals are just making your addiction worse. And now I'm not addicted to the food I eat anymore. I don't need it. I don't, you know, I wake up and I'm like, what can I eat that's got a lot of, you know, hydration in it? Or, you know, I crave those things now. I don't crave the Taco Bell and the whatever Starbucks anymore.
I mean, it's important to know too that, I mean, I know that you guys feel like you love the food that you're eating. You don't feel like, oh, it's okay. I'm not, you know.
I love it.
No, I love it.
I really love it. And I've branched out and tried things that I've never tried before.
You try all kinds of stuff.
I put everything together.
It's such a wide range. I mean, it's anything from savory to sweet to salty. I mean, it is not just bland at all. It's delicious, rich, creamy, decadent food.
Didn't you think it wasn't going to be that way?
I thought it'd be more bland.
Yeah. I think that's the thing people don't realize, is that you actually end up eating more variety in a plant-based diet and different flavors than you are now. Like, it's the food is delicious. And also, I've talked before about how that is actually a clinical you know, thing that happens, is that your taste buds change. Your taste buds change to adapt to whatever you're eating. So it can work for you or against you. So yeah, you might be really craving pizza all the time right now because you eat pizza all the time.
Right.
But when you change what you're eating, your body starts to crave that. And so it's, you know, it just takes a few weeks of commitment in order for that to happen. Linda says, OMG, the airplane seatbelt. I have so much more room now. You're going to love that, LT. So yeah, if we ever did this slide. Yeah. So lastly, you know, I just want to tie this up. So how does the feeling of empowerment that you have now, how can you relate that to how you felt when you were younger? What's similar about it?
I've gone back to that, you know, hope for the future. I've gone back to that idea in my head that the sky's the limit. Like, I don't have limits now. For when you're a kid, you think, oh, I can be a rock star. I can be a fighter pilot. I can be, because you know, you don't know your limitations. And now I feel like that again. I feel like I don't have limitations anymore. There's nothing that I feel like I can't do. I don't have any physical limitations. I don't have any of that mental block anymore. My self-esteem is way back up. I don't feel like I couldn't walk into an interview if I needed to and put my best foot forward. You know, I don't feel like I have limitations. And that's a great feeling to have after not having that for so many years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Lauren?
And I would say when you're a kid, you're carefree, you laugh more, you're happier, you just find funny things in life, you find the funny side, you're always about what's next that's fun to do. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm a person who loves friends, and I love laughing, and I love being together with people. And I had just let that be too quiet for myself. I had isolated and stopped doing groups and just kind of had a more negative bent on things. I'm just more hopeful about things. I'm lighthearted. I'm just not as serious as I used to be, where it's like, oh, everything is so heavy, serious. You know, I'm just like, woo, let's just have fun. What are we going to do to have fun?
Yeah.
I'm the fun mom now. I like being the fun mom. You know, everybody likes the fun mom.
Yeah.
I still have my boundaries, but mom is more fun to be around. And you know, my son's in college and I love him dearly. Now, how many people have a son that calls your mom every day and wants to talk to her? He wants to call me every day to talk to me. You know, I don't know that he would have been doing this with other mom. Because been like, oh, I gotta call my mom. But now I'm like, what you doing, Landon? You know, I'm like, I'm fun mom. You know, we're just, that's the way we talk. We have fun.
Yeah, I feel like I can remember as I started to go through that process of kind of losing that light.
Yeah.
That I became so self-conscious.
Yes.
And that it made me afraid of how anything that I did, how it looked.
Yeah.
Yes. I was very because, you know, I don't know, for me, I just felt like everything looks worse or seems, I don't know, like it seemed like I would be judged by my weight no matter what I did. I don't know, like that somehow you can't get away with whatever. Like, I don't know.
Because we were judging ourselves so harshly. How could the next person not judge us? Because we were so harsh to ourselves.
Right.
I was.
And so now, you know, like I just live so much more boldly. And I really don't care. Like I love, you know, people and all of that, but like I'm not all the time basing my decisions on those types of things. You know, and I don't care. Like I am more silly and, you know, like I'm constantly like doing opera singing in the house to my pigs and, you know, just cutting up. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, TikTok is saving my life right now too, with some of the hilarious stuff on that. Like last night, everybody's in bed last night. I was literally crying on the couch watching TikTok. Like, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's a freedom. Yes. To just be yourself, freedom. To just be out there. And it doesn't have anything to do with your weight. It's unloading, yes, the physical weight, but the weight that you were carrying in your heart also, like that heaviness that you were carrying because your mindset's different.
Yes. You are lighter all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully this has been really helpful. I'm sorry that we went a little longer, but the three of us were so excited about talking about this. When we came up with this topic, we were all like, oh, this is great, because this is really the crux of it, of what makes people end up in a place that they're not happy with, but also what holds them back from change. And, you know, as LT and Joanne said, you know, you don't have to be 100% positive that you can do this. You just have to be convinced that the way you've been doing things is not the right way.
Right.
And you have to know that the way to get out is not around anymore, it's through. You gotta just start changing your mind, changing your habits, And it's so much better than you think it's going to be, because you start to feel so much better right away.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
And we want that for everybody. When you have that feeling, you want to share it with people, because it's drastically going to change your life, and it's going to change the life of those closest to you, because it's going to trickle down.
right,
It's going
to your kids, whether they
everybody around you.
are, whether they are still giving you crap or not, they're watching you when you're,
Yeah.
whether you're really unhealthy or healthy, they're watching what you're doing. And so that has made an impact on my kids for the worse when I was, still in really bad habits, and for the better now that I'm not. But also, for my husband, and, everybody around me, I am an influencer now instead of being influenced.
Yeah. Me
I'm
too.
influencing I'm like, yeah, just like you said, both of you guys, like I'm influencing the room instead of going in and like, okay, I'm trying to fit in here and not be too visible,
Right.
and it's just such a great feeling. And it's that feeling, and maybe none of us I don't even know if I had that when I was younger. So that's the great thing, is it's also, there's something about being older and doing this that's coming into your own.
It is.
And it's better than when you were younger.
It's better.
Yeah.
And we're aging. We're all aging. Life is moving at a quick clip. Look, here we are at the end of October, almost at the end of this year. Life is moving forward. Let's age gracefully. Let's age with health. Let's age with vitality.
Yeah. This doesn't have to be a process of getting
No.
old. That's what getting old and aging are not the same thing.
No.
We're all aging, but only some of us are getting old.
That's right.
And when you put the healthy things in your body, the aging process looks so different than when you're poisoning yourself. And
Yes.
I remember you saying that in 1 year's time, every cell in your body, your whole body changes in 1 year's time.
It rebuilds itself completely.
Right. And when you, like, early on, when you start feeling better, you see those changes. But if you stick with it, I think I was at like the 10th or 11th month in, all of a sudden, like within a couple of weeks time, all my skin on my whole body changed. Like it was not the skin I had had my entire life. It was a different color. It was a different texture. I mean, it's like, where did this skin come from? And you have to allow the process to do its thing and to heal your body. And the changes just keep coming. I mean, it just keeps getting better.
It really does.
It
It's
does.
amazing, it changes in your hair and in your skin, and the clarity of your eyes. I hear that one a lot. Not only that you can see better, a lot of people will drop down in a prescription if they're wearing eyeglasses or whatever, but your eyes look clearer. It's just like you guys said, you're sleeping better. You're not having night sweats and hot flashes, and you're not having to take stuff for indigestion, and we could go on all day. That's the point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I used to live on Tums.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I popped them like Tic Tacs. I mean, I
was
can't tell you the last time I had a Tums.
I was taking Rolaids when I was little. Like I can remember my dad kept the Rolaids in his beside the bed, and so I would go in and get those. I mean, like it's it starts young, which is why people are so afraid of change, because they've been doing the same things for so long. But it's worth it. So I hope that you guys have gotten a lot out of this today. Please feel free to comment with any of your experiences or questions you have for any of us below. And we will see you next week on the Inner Strength Empowerment Hour. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.